Before bread, before empires. There were pancakes 10,000 BC. Imagine waking up on a freezing morning thousands of years before the pyramids were built, before Rome existed, before anyone had ever heard the word breakfast. A hunter slowly kneels beside a warm stone near a dying fire. In his hands is a simple mixture made from crushed wild grains and water. He pours it onto the hot rock. Within moments, it begins to sizzle. A delicious aroma fills the air. Without realizing it, that ancient human has just created one of the oldest foods in history. The first pancake. Today, pancakes are covered in maple syrup, butter, berries, chocolate, whipped cream, and countless toppings. They appear in restaurants, family kitchens, and breakfast tables across the world. But almost nobody asks the question, where did pancakes actually come from? The answer is far older, stranger, and far more fascinating than most people imagine, because pancakes weren't invented by one country. They survived the Stone Age, fed Roman soldiers, crossed oceans, inspired religious festivals, and eventually became one of humanity's favorite comfort foods. But this incredible journey begins over 10,000 years ago, long before history was ever written. Before we continue, if you enjoy uncovering the forgotten history behind the foods we eat every day, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Because every week we uncover stories hiding in plain sight. Now, let's travel back to where it all began. Life during the Stone Age was brutal. There were no farms, no bakeries, no ovens. Every meal depended on survival. People gathered berries, hunted animals, collected roots, and searched endlessly for edible plants. Among these discoveries were wild grasses. The tiny seeds were difficult to eat raw. They were hard, dry, almost impossible to digest. But early humans noticed something remarkable. When the seeds were crushed between stones, mixed with water, and heated over a fire, they transformed into something soft, warm, and filling. It wasn't bread. Bread required ovens and yeast that wouldn't exist for thousands of years. Instead, they made thin, flat cakes cooked directly on heated stones. Primitive pancakes. Archaeologists believe this simple cooking method appeared independently across many early human societies because it required only three things: grain, water, heat. No special tools. No complicated recipes, just survival. Those early pancakes were coarse and earthy. Nothing like today's fluffy breakfast stacks, yet they solved an enormous problem. Cooking broke down tough grains, making them easier to digest while providing valuable energy. That simple discovery may have helped humans survive harsh winters and long migrations. Sometimes the greatest inventions don't begin with luxury. They begin with hunger. As humans slowly learned agriculture, around 9,000 years ago, everything changed. Instead of chasing food, people began growing it. Wheat, barley, millet, and oats slowly became part of everyday life. With reliable grain harvests came experimentation. Families discovered they could grind grain into finer flour. They added eggs whenever birds' nests were found. Sometimes milk from newly domesticated animals. Sometimes honey collected from dangerous wild beehives. The result? Pancakes slowly became softer, richer, and far more delicious. They weren't reserved for celebrations. They became everyday food. Quick to prepare, easy to share, perfect for growing families. Long before written recipes existed, pancake-making knowledge was passed from one generation to the next. A mother teaching her daughter, a father showing his son, thousands of years of tradition carried entirely by memory. Around 5,000 years ago, another civilization embraced the humble pancake. Ancient Egypt, Egyptians are famous for pyramids, pharaohs, and mummies. But daily life revolved around grain. Bread dominated Egyptian diets. Yet flat cakes, cooked on hot stones, remained common among workers and travelers. Large construction crews needed food that was portable, filling, and inexpensive. Silbul grain cakes met every requirement. Some historians believe these early cakes were sweetened with dates or honey when available. Others remained plain and practical. Food wasn't about luxury. It was about survival. As trade expanded across the Mediterranean, recipes traveled alongside merchants. Ideas crossed borders. Ingredients spread. Cultures borrowed from one another. By the time ancient Greece flourished, pancakes had become something much more recognizable. Greek writers described flat cakes, called tagnites, made with wheat flour, olive oil, curdled milk, and often topped with honey. Some recipes included sesame seeds. Others used herbs, unlike earlier versions made simply to survive. Greek pancakes became something people genuinely looked forward to eating. One Greek poet even described them as a breakfast meal, enjoyed shortly after sunrise. Imagine that. Over 2,000 years ago, someone sat down to enjoy pancakes for breakfast, just like millions of people still do today. History has a funny way of repeating itself. Ancient Greece celebrated food as part of philosophy, family, and hospitality. Guests were welcomed with meals. Festivals featured shared dishes. Markets overflowed with grains, fruits, cheese, olives, and wine. Within this vibrant culture, pancakes quietly earned a permanent place. Not because they were expensive, but because they could be adapted for everyone. Rich families added honey. Poor families ate them plain. Children loved them. Travelers relied on them. Farmers carried them into the fields. Sometimes the simplest foods become the most timeless. Eventually, another civilization adopted the pancake and spread versions of it farther than anyone before: Rome. The Roman Empire stretched across Europe, North Africa, and parts of Asia. With every conquest came cultural exchange. Roman cooks developed their own versions of pancakes known as alita dolcia, meaning another sweet. These early Roman pancakes combined flour, eggs, milk, and spices. Some were sweetened with honey. Others included pepper, an ingredient surprisingly common in Roman cooking. Imagine tasting sweet honey, followed immediately by black pepper. Strange to modern tastes, but perfectly normal for wealthy Romans. Roman cookbooks reveal just how sophisticated their kitchens had become. Cooking was becoming an art, and pancakes evolved alongside it. Roman soldiers also played an unexpected role. Wherever legions marched, food traditions followed. Portable grain cakes were ideal military rations, sisal ingredients. Quick preparation, reliable energy, as Roman influence spread across Europe. Local populations adapted these recipes using regional ingredients, different grains, different animals, different cooking methods. One basic idea, countless variations. The pancake was no longer a single recipe. It had become a global concept. Yet something remarkable happened after Rome fell. Empires disappeared, kings rose and fell. Languages changed, borders shifted, entire civilizations vanished. But pancakes survived them all. Why? Because ordinary people kept making them. Not emperors, not generals, families. Parents, grandparents, children, while history books focused on wars and rulers. The pancake quietly continued its journey through kitchens across the world. Its greatest strength wasn't power, it was simplicity. By the early Middle Ages, nearly every region of Europe had developed its own version. Some were thick, others paper-thin. Some used buckwheat, others rye. Some were sweet, many were savory, without anyone realizing it. The humble pancake was becoming one of humanity's most universal foods. But an unexpected force was about to change pancake history forever. Religion. A single Christian tradition would transform pancakes from an everyday meal into a symbol celebrated once every year. That tradition still exists today. And millions unknowingly participate in it. How religion turned pancakes into a celebration. The Roman Empire had fallen. Castles replaced ancient cities. Stone roads crumbled. Europe entered the Middle Ages. Life became harder once again. Harvests often failed. Famines were common. Most families lived simple lives, growing just enough food to survive each year. Yet, despite wars, disease, and poverty, one familiar food continued appearing in homes across Europe: pancakes. Only now, they were beginning to mean something far greater than a quick meal. They were becoming part of faith itself. By the 12th century, Christianity had become deeply woven into everyday life across much of Europe. Every season had religious traditions. Every feast had symbolic foods. And before Easter came one of the most important periods of the Christian calendar. Lent. Lent lasted 40 days. During this time, many Christians avoided rich foods as an act of sacrifice. Different regions followed different customs. But common foods people gave up included eggs, milk, butter, cream, animal fat. These ingredients happened to be exactly what made pancakes delicious. Families faced a practical problem. Those fresh ingredients would spoil if left unused before Lent began. So what did they do? They gathered everything remaining in the kitchen. Mixed flour, eggs, milk, butter, and cooked enormous batches of pancakes, not as dessert, not as luxury, but to avoid wasting valuable food. What started as practicality slowly transformed into tradition. The day before Lent became famous for pancakes. Generation after generation continued the custom until entire villages celebrated together. Without realizing it, a simple recipe had become part of religious history. In England, this special day became known as Shrove Tuesday. The word shrove came from the old Christian practice of confessing sins before Lent began. People attended church in the morning, then returned home for one final feast before weeks of fasting. The meal almost always included pancakes. Soon church bells themselves became part of the tradition. Across many towns, a bell rang during the afternoon. Its sound meant one thing: start making pancakes. Imagine hearing church bells echo across a medieval village. Smoke rising from hundreds of chimneys. Families gathering around hot iron pans. Children eagerly waiting beside the fire. The smell of butter filled the air. For many poor families, it was one of the richest meals they would eat all year. As centuries passed, another tradition appeared, one that still survives today: the pancake race. According to a famous English legend, a woman was busy cooking pancakes when she suddenly heard the church bell calling everyone to confession. Still holding her frying pan, she ran through the streets toward the church, flipping the pancake as she ran. Whether the story is completely true remains uncertain, but it inspired a remarkable custom. Today, competitors race through streets carrying frying pans while flipping pancakes into the air. Some towns have organized these races for hundreds of years. A medieval kitchen accident became an international festival. History is often stranger than fiction. Meanwhile, pancakes continued evolving across Europe. Every region developed its own version. In France, thin, elegant pancakes became known as crepes. Unlike thick breakfast pancakes, crepes were delicate and paper-thin. They could be folded around cheese, ham, mushrooms, or sweet fillings like sugar and fruit preserves. French cooks mastered the art of spreading batter across hot pans so evenly that the pancakes almost seemed transparent. Making perfect crepes became a skill requiring patience and practice. Even today, experienced chefs can flip them effortlessly without breaking them. Further east, another pancake tradition was taking shape. In Russia, the pancake became known as blini. Unlike American pancakes, blini were often made using buckwheat flour. Their flavor was richer and earthier, but they carried powerful symbolism. Their round golden shape reminded people of the sun. After long freezing winters, festivals welcomed spring. By serving stacks of warm blini, families gathered together, songs were sung. Bonfires burned. The return of sunlight was celebrated with pancakes. Food had become part of cultural identity. In Germany, thin pancakes called Pfannkuchen appeared. In Scandinavia, Sweden developed delicate pancakes served with jam and whipped cream. Norway preferred thicker versions. Finland created its own baked varieties. Every country believed its pancakes were unique, yet all shared the same ancient idea, born thousands of years earlier. Flour, liquid, heat. The world's oldest recipe continued adapting without losing its identity. As trade expanded across Europe, exciting new ingredients began arriving from distant lands. Sugar became more available. Cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, vanilla. These spices were once worth enormous fortunes. Only wealthy families could afford them. Adding cinnamon to pancake batter became a sign of prosperity. Honey slowly gave way to sugar. Recipes grew sweeter, more luxurious. Cooking transformed from necessity into pleasure. By the late Middle Ages, cookbooks started appearing. For the first time, pancake recipes were written instead of simply remembered. Measurements replaced guesswork. Techniques were preserved. One famous English cookbook from the 15th century described pancakes cooked with eggs, flour, spices, and wine. Another recipe suggested adding saffron, giving pancakes a brilliant golden color fit for noble families. Royal kitchens experimented constantly. Common people adapted those ideas using whatever ingredients they could afford. Whether prepared inside castles or tiny cottages, pancakes belonged to everyone. Then came one of the greatest turning points in food history, the Age of Exploration. European ships crossed oceans. New continents were discovered, and with them came ingredients that would completely transform pancakes forever. One ingredient in particular would change breakfast forever: maple syrup. Another would introduce entirely new varieties of flour, and soon, across the Atlantic Ocean, pancakes would become one of America's favorite foods. But the American pancake story is far more complicated than most people realize. It involves native traditions, European settlers, gold rushes, cowboys, and eventually one invention that allowed anyone to make pancakes in minutes. But Europe was no longer the only place where pancake history was being written. As explorers crossed the Atlantic during the 15th and 16th centuries, they carried centuries-old pancake recipes to the New World. However, they soon discovered that Native American communities had already been making their own flat cakes for thousands of years using ground corn. Instead of wheat flour, these early corn cakes were cooked on hot stones and served as an everyday staple. European settlers quickly adopted this idea, blending their traditional pancake recipes with local ingredients. This meeting of two cultures gave birth to entirely new kinds of pancakes. Then came another discovery that changed breakfast forever: maple syrup. long before European settlers arrived. Indigenous peoples had mastered the process of collecting sap from maple trees and boiling it into sweet syrup. As sugar was expensive, settlers embraced maple syrup, and before long, pancakes and maple syrup became an inseparable combination. During America's westward expansion, pancakes became the breakfast of pioneers, gold miners, and cowboys. With only a cast iron skillet, flour, and water, they could prepare a warm, filling meal almost anywhere. Even far from civilization, pancakes reminded them of home. The biggest revolution came in the 19th century with the invention of baking powder. For the first time, pancakes became light, soft, and fluffy instead of thin and dense. Soon afterward, ready-made pancake mixes appeared, making breakfast faster and easier than ever before. Meanwhile, different countries created their own unique versions. France perfected delicate crepes. Russia celebrated spring with blini, and Japan amazed the world with its incredibly soft soufflé pancakes. Across Asia, Europe, and the Americas, every culture added its own ingredients and traditions, yet the basic idea remained unchanged. After surviving more than 10,000 years, pancakes had evolved from a simple survival food into one of the world's most beloved breakfasts. But the story wasn't over yet. But even after becoming one of the world's favorite breakfasts, the story of pancakes was far from over. Today, pancakes are enjoyed in almost every country on Earth. From small roadside cafes to luxury hotels, billions of pancakes are cooked every year. Yet every culture still gives them its own unique identity. In France, people continue celebrating La Chandeleur, where families make crepes together for good luck. In the United Kingdom, Pancake Day is still marked with the famous pancake races, where competitors run through the streets while flipping pancakes in frying pans. Meanwhile, Russia's Maslenitsa festival welcomes spring with huge stacks of blini, keeping a tradition alive that has lasted for centuries. Pancakes have even entered the record books. The world's largest pancake measured over 15 meters, 49 feet, in diameter, and weighed several tons. Around the world, chefs compete to flip pancakes the highest, cook the fastest, or build the tallest pancake stacks. What was once a simple survival food has become the center of international competitions and festivals. Modern chefs continue reinventing pancakes in exciting ways. Japanese soufflé pancakes became a global sensation because of their soft, cloud-like texture. Health-conscious cooks now prepare pancakes using oats, bananas, almond flour, and protein-rich ingredients, while others create colorful pancakes using fruits and natural vegetables. Social media has also transformed pancakes into an art form. Millions of people share videos of giant pancake stacks covered with fresh berries, chocolate, whipped cream, honey, and maple syrup. Some chefs even create pancake portraits of famous people, proving that this ancient dish still inspires creativity. But perhaps the most fascinating fact is that pancakes have never truly belonged to one nation. No single country can honestly claim to have invented the pancake. Instead, different civilizations discovered similar ideas independently because the recipe was so simple: grain, liquid, and heat. From Stone Age hunters cooking batter on hot rocks to modern families using electric griddles, the basic concept has remained almost unchanged for over 10,000 years. Empires have risen and fallen, kings and queens have disappeared into history, languages have changed, borders have shifted. Yet pancakes survived every generation because they were never just food. They represented comfort, family, celebration, and survival. Every time someone pours batter onto a hot pan and hears that familiar sizzling sound, they are unknowingly repeating, a tradition that began thousands of years ago beside a simple campfire. So the next time you enjoy a stack of pancakes with butter and syrup, remember, you're not just eating breakfast. You're taking part in one of the oldest culinary traditions in human history. A tradition that has connected people across continents, cultures, and centuries. If you enjoyed discovering the incredible history behind one of the world's oldest foods, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves food history, because every meal has a story, and every story begins somewhere. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next journey through the history of food.